Alright, so let's build the card system first. Okay, so I'm not going to use any XAMPP for this. I'm not going to use any PHP. It's just plain HTML and the live server. Alright, and once we're done, I'm just going to copy the code in my project folder that we have built together in the 3-hour session from Teams. Alright, so I'm just going to create a folder, and in anywhere, not necessarily in XAMPP, since I don't really need XAMPP at this. So I'm just going to go, I think I've already made a folder in my system, so it's called card system tutorial. Right, so I'm just going to select that folder. I'm going to create an index.html, okay, and another styles.css. Anything that I'm going to write here and there, I'm going to copy it to my main project folder, which we have built in the 3-hour session. Right, so let's just start HTML. Let's link the styles here. So styles like this. And let me just go and start the live server. You should not see anything so far. I'm going to use a font family from Google Fonts. It's called, I think you've seen it before. It's called Lato. So Lato, here it is. So I'm going to select this one. Okay. Or maybe this one. It has, okay, so maybe this is good. Alright, so I'm just going to go there in my CSS, and I'm going to give the font family to be Lato, like that, right? And if it didn't find it, I'm just going to let it fall back to sans serif, and here I'm just going to add the font link. Now we can start with an H1 that I'm going to call card tutorial. So this is alright, so let me just close this, and here we go. Okay, so let me just center that H1 in the middle. Alright, now I'm going to give the color for everything to be something like hash 555. This is a gray color. Yeah, it's a gray color. We don't really care about the H1 anyway. So let's create a row here, right? So I'm just going to create a row, and I'm going to use the flex and justify content to be centered. And if you don't really remember this, just go back to the gallery video from week 3. Okay, so I'm not going to re-explain everything. I'm going to make a div called row, which contains the columns or the cards, right? So I'm going to have a class of row, and I'm going to give that row a background color of, let me just check the colors here, because I don't really, let me open this from the Explorer. So I have already saved the colors, so I just can save some time, hopefully. Yeah, so the row has a very light gray color. You don't really need to stick to this, but this is the style that I'm choosing. Alright, and it's going to have a width, of course, of 100%, and it's going to have a display of flex. Alright, and I'm going to justify content, and just for safety check, I'm going to say margin 0 auto to have everything centered in the middle. And every row is going to have a height, like a height of, you know, maybe 100 pixels. 100 pixels is going to be good, so 100 pixels, like that. So that doesn't look like 100 pixels, but we are going to see why isn't this working in a minute. So let's just leave the row as it is. Okay, and let's make another div and call it div, and I'm going to call that div card, right? Let's make another div, call it column first. Okay, so essentially a column will contain a card. Let me just illustrate this really quick. I don't have my pen with me, but you can just say that this is the row, right? And we are going to have columns, so every column is going to be like this. I'm going to design my card system to have in every row specifically 3 columns. So in every column I will have my card like this. So that's just the plan here. Okay, why should I have a div called card inside my div that is called column? That is just a design decision that I'm making, just in case I want to add some kind of button underneath every card or something before every card like this. I just want to have some more space. That's it. That's the whole idea. Okay, so I'm just going to create a div. All right, I'm going to call it card like that. Okay. Alright, so now let's give some classes to the column itself. So let's see how this column will have its width. So let's take a look at this, a very bad sketch that we've made here. So this is supposed to be column 1, right? So this is column 1, and that's column 2, and that's column 3, right? So what I want to have is that every column should have a specific width. Okay, so I'm going to think about the margins first before talking about the width. All right, so I'm going to have a margin to the left and right of each one. Okay, so there is a margin to the left and right of each column, which makes that we have, if we have 3 columns in our row, so we have a total of 6 margins to the left and right, left and right. Okay, so we have 6 margins. I want to give every margin a 2 pixels, or let's just make it a relative width, since if we wanted to, you know, like stretch or shrink the page, I'm just going to have this here. If you wanted to shrink the page, it's just going to be responsive with us. So we are going to use relative units here. Okay, so going back to the sketch, I'm going to use 2%. Okay, so I'm going to have a 2% of margin left and right for each one. So this makes it what, 2 by 6, this is 12, right? So what do we have left? Let me check. It's 88. So 12 minus 100, 12 minus 100, so this is 88 over how many columns do we have? We have 3. So essentially every column should have a width of 29, right? So this is the width of every one. So this is the width of each column should be specifically 29. And again, this is how I really want to see my stuff. All right, you don't need to stick to the same dimensions, but this is what I'm going to go with. All right, so I'm going to give every column a width of 29%, right? And I don't think it's going to show you anything so far. I'm going to give a background color of let's leave the background color for now. All right, I'm going to give it, let's see how this is looking like. It's not going to show you anything so far, right? So let's just go and add a margin right and left of 2%, right? And I'm just going to add a background color of red just to see how things are looking. And maybe I'm going to take that height and attach it to the column better. So yeah, this is how it's looking like. Well, there's something weird, since they should have like margins right and left, but anyways, I think this is fine, since I think this is just one column. If we added multiple columns, you should see them having the margin right and left. So let me just copy and paste this entire column here. So let me just say that this is the column. I'm going to repeat that column that has a card inside multiple times. And yeah, so this is your card system. Okay, that's just the beginning. All right, so so this is looking good. I'm just going to take away that background color, since it's really ugly. Okay, now let's make a card. Let's say that the card is going to have a background color of white, so it doesn't appear. We're gonna see why in just a minute. All right, and maybe I'm going to add for every column. I don't want to finish the column that quickly. I just want to add a margin top and bottom. Margin top of 20 or 30 pixels. The same for the bottom here. Alright, now the background color is not appearing. I think this is because that we haven't entered anything inside the div, but essentially if we've written something, it should display. Okay, so yeah, so this is good so far. We are going to take it from there. Now let me just add a div inside each card. If you remember how things were looking, so this is essentially how things were looking, right? So in every card we have, you notice this hovering, so there's some kind of it's popping out of its place, or aka it's getting scaled, right? It's getting upscaled, so we're going to see this. But anyways, we have a section here. That's the first section for the pizza name, and this is the second section for the ingredients, and this is the third section for more details, right? Alright, so I'm going to make the first section as a div, another div, another div. So we have essentially another 3 divs inside the card div, right? So notice the layout here. We have, this is the first column, so column that has a card, and every card has 3 divs. So I'm going to make the first div, which is pizza name, right? And I'm going to make another div, which is pizza ingredients. I'm going to make another one, which is view more, like this. Okay, so if we looked here, we have a pizza name. That's I remember I did this in that's an h3. Yeah, that's an h3. Yes, this is an h3 and this is an h2. Okay, so let me just add an h3 here. And since we are going to copy all of this and put it in our root directory that we have been working on in XAMPP, maybe you would have h3s in your project. So we don't really want to overwrite any styles that these h3s or the old h3s had. So I'm just going to give this a class of, guess what, h3. So I'm just going to say that this is pizza name, right? And let me just add, what was the second one? This was, I believe this was a paragraph. Yeah, that was a paragraph. So I'm just going to say that this is a paragraph, like this, and it should have a class of B, right? I think that's really not intuitive, so I'm just going to call this name. So this paragraph should contain the name of the pizza here. Okay, I'm going to leave that class name as h3, since you can name it anything. So h3 pizza name. I don't want to make my naming convention really large, so I'm just going to leave it like this. So let's take a look at how this is looking like. So we have pizza name, and the paragraph, it doesn't contain anything. So let me just write shrimp lovers. Refresh, and we have that shrimp lover thing. Okay, so that h3, it doesn't look good. Nothing looks good so far, but we are going to handle this. Okay, so that's the first division. The second division, we have like, that's obviously an h3, right? And these are elements in a list. Okay, and these are just icons from Font Awesome. So I'm going to create the first h3, which is ingredients, and we have an order list that has 3 lists. When every list has an icon, right? So let's see these icons. So this icon, it's called, I think this is carrot and this is cheese. Let me just go to Font Awesome. Font Awesome, yeah, here it is. Okay, so we have carrot. Alright, so I'm going to use that. It's just named as carrot, but we need to include the Font Awesome link. So I'm just going to go to my previous project folder, which was Font Awesome. The link is available in Teams if you were wondering where we can get the link. So it's in the page, in our course page. You can see it there. Okay, so I'm just going to link this as well. Alright, and now I can just use the class name. Alright, so it was fast carrot. Let me just see if it appears or not. It doesn't, so I think it's fast first and then FA, and we have it here. Okay, so that is the first one. So let's say that the first ingredient is basically tomato, right? And I'm going to copy this cheese, and the other one is going to be jalapeno. You can choose whatever icons that you want. I'm just going to choose any arbitrary icons. So let's say cheese, and yeah, this one is going to work for us. So I'm just going to change this to cheese. And there is as well, I think there is pepper. I searched for jalapeno before, but I didn't find it, so pepper hot is going to work. Yeah, there is no jalapeno here, so yeah. So go back and refresh, and yeah, it doesn't look good, but we are going to make it look good. Now notice something that is annoying. We said that the column which contains the chord, remember the chord is the one that has the white color, right? So let me just open the developer tools. Okay, so each row has a column. So this is the column. The chord is what is highlighted or has a background of white, and it should be inside the column, but for some reason it's out of it. So that is not going to work. So let's see how can we fix that, right? But first, let's just continue all of the sections. So this is the third section, which is the more details, and this is going to be having the view more. So we have, I think we don't really need that. We just need the button. So anchor tag, and I'm going to say more details, and I'm going to give it a class of button like this. Okay, so this is how it's looking like so far, right? So I'm going to remove all of the other columns, and I'm going to stick to this one. I'm just going to create one at first. Once we're done, we can just copy the entire div. This is the entire div. We can cover it once, twice, thrice, as much as you want to see columns here. So I'm just going to copy it 3 times once I'm done with the first one. So this is the very big column here. Okay, so let's just get finished with this. So this is going to be call 1, and this is for preparation to call 2. Alright. Okay, so let's start with the actual CSS that's going to make everything looks better. First of all, let's solve this height problem. Now remember that we've said that the height for the column that contains the chord, right, is 100 pixels. Now it is obvious that this is not enough, so you can just make it relative and to contain everything inside of it. So once we do that, you're going to see that the column now is containing the chord, and you can even tell if you open the developer tools and went to column, that's the column, and this is the chord inside of it. Alright, so if we made this something like pixel like before, like this, see, that's not going to work, and the chord is going to overflow outside of the column, right? But having it as a relative unit or percentages is going to solve it. So let's start with our beloved h3 tag here. So that h3 tag has the class of h3. That speeds the name, right? So let me just grab that, okay? And I'm just going to say that these are the essentials. So this is going to be essentials like this, and now we can say that this is going to be adding styles, right? So these are stuff related to width and, you know, width, height, layout, justifying and center. Now we should give the actual colorful things here. So I'm just going to grab the h3 class, which is the h3 tag, right, and give it a background color. I don't remember the color of the h3, so let me just see. Yeah, it was this weird 203 3 times here. So this is the color of it. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's the color that we need. Now we can use text transform and to make everything in uppercase. Alright, that's good. Now this is relatively big, so you can just make it smaller. So you can just say font size, and notice that I'm going to use your relative units as much as I can whenever we talk about the width of anything, width of the screen, width of the font. So I'm just going to notice that every font size by default it's taking like 100% of it's supposed to have like default font size, right? So I'm just going to make this 90% just to make it a little bit smaller, right? So this is a little bit smaller, and it has a font weight of I think 200. Let's see how 200 looks like. Now that's really thin. Let's try 300 here. Refresh. I don't think that there's a very big difference. So let's try 400. What do we say? I think that this will work. Yeah, this is going to work. Now let's add a letter spacing of 2 pixels. Alright, we are getting somewhere. Alright, so now let's take care of the padding and stuff. So let me go here and say that I want to give some padding. I don't know what's going to be the padding looking like, so I'm just going to, yeah, let's have it as percentages. And I'm going to figure it out from the developer tools in just a minute. So let's go to the developer tools and take a look at the first H3, which is the first division, which is beats the name division. So we have the padding here. Let's see from the top. Yeah, I think 7 is good. Let's see the right here. I'm not sure that it's going to make any difference anyway, so I'm just going to have it as 5, right? And from the left, that's the bottom. Yeah, I think 4 is good, and the left is going to be, yeah, I think this is going to work. Okay, that's looking really nice. Okay, so let me just copy this line here. Oops, like that. Alright, so this is looking good. Now let's give some border radius to our chord. I forgot to do that, so let's just give a border radius to the chord from every edge as a 2 or 20 pixels like this. And now let's decorate this paragraph, right? We want essentially to make this as big as we can. So I'm going to go to the paragraph. The paragraph has a name of just name. That's the class name. And I'm going to give it first of all a background color. I don't remember the background color as usual, so I'm just going to go, that's the paragraph, this is the color that we look for. Okay, so that is our color. Now let's increase the font size a little bit. I'm going to use relative units as well. So 190 is what? No, I'm sorry, that's the color, not the background color. Alright, so that's looking good. That's looking good. But there's something annoying here. Notice something. If I go to the name, once you increase the font size, the margin is going to increase. So this is essentially the margin, alright? Look at the margin now. It's bigger, and that's really annoying, right? So you can take away that margin. Okay, so I'm just going to make the margin. Where am I working? I'm going to make the margin here, alright? And I'm just going to use pixels for this one, since I think I'm not going to be involved in right and left, right? I just want to take care of the top and bottom margins, so I'm just going to use these. I'm just going to tweak this one, top and bottom. Okay, so let me just see this. Now that is not what we want. We want to make it smaller. Yeah, this is going to work. So I'm going to give it like -10. Okay, so I don't want all of that margin that it had whenever we increased the font size, right? Okay, so let's give some padding here. So I'm just going to test this padding and give it a padding of 10 pixels from the right. You can have it as relative units as well, but that's just a simple padding from the left. I don't think that I need any much padding. I think I don't need any much more padding. That's enough, right? Or let's just test it. Let's see. Alright, so this is right. This is let's see. This is top right. This right is not going to do anything, but I'm just going to have it anyway. So top right, bottom. I think bottom is good. Yeah, that bottom one is really good. Okay, so there is a small space at the end, and from that, this is top right, bottom. I think from the left part we need it more, so I'm just going to have this as 30. 30 is 30 too much? Let me just have it as 20. I think this is going to work. Well, let's have it as 30. Okay, so this is my batting here. Okay, so this is looking good. Now what's left is to have like a line after each division. Okay, so I'm going to put a line after the first division. Notice that the first division is the pizza name, and this is pizza ingredients, and this is view more. Okay, I just want an underneath line of the first division and the second one, so I'm going to grab these divisions here. Alright, so let me just go and say dot pizza name and dot pizza ingredients, and this is going to have a border bottom of 10 is too much, 1 pixel of solid line, right, and give it a gray. That's a gray color, by the way, if you're wondering. That's a gray color here. Okay, so this is looking good, but I believe we need some spaces, so we are going to handle that in just a minute. Okay, so we can add a padding bottom here after each of these divisions. Padding bottom of 20 pixels. Yeah, this is looking pretty good, right? I think this is this has been pushed to the left really far, so maybe I'm just going to grab this and make this 20 or 23. All right, yeah, that's better. So I'm just gonna go there, make this 23 like this, and we're good. Now let's pick the ingredients, which is supposed to be an h3. So I'm just going to give the ingredients the class that we have given that first h3, which is class h3. Now refresh, and here it goes, right? Now let's take care of the UL here. Now if you open the second division, you're gonna see that this UL by default it has a margin, it has padding, it has everything, and knowing that we don't really want to see, so let's remove or reduce these guys. But first I think we can take care of the icons itself, because taking care of the UL is not going to be a big deal. So I'm just going to see the icons here. So let me just go to the code here, and I'm going to modify the lists first to have like no dots at all. So I want to target the lists that under a specific UL, because again, in your project you should have, you might or you might not have a navigation bar, but if you have a navigation bar and you didn't give any classes to this UL and LIs of the navigation bar of yours, or even a footer, then things are going to be interleaving, and that's something that you don't want to have. So I'm just going to give that UL a class of ingredients. Alright, so we can go to the CSS file. I'm not going to say here, so this is adding styles. Alright, so let's say that I'm going to say for every UL, right, for every LI and every UL that has a class of inch or ingredients, I'm going to give it a width. First of all, let's take away the list style. How about that? Let's take away the list style. Alright, so refresh, and looks good. Now let's grab the icons. Okay, so remember the icons are inside the LI, right? So I can say that inside the LI, grab the icon and give every icon. Let's take a look at how the icons are looking like at the first place. So this is the icon here. So the width is really small, we want to increase it. So width can be 15%. And now that's a little bit big, we are going to handle that. So this is the width. Maybe we would want to center the icon inside that width, right? So text align center. I think this is good, not that good, but it works. So where is it? That is the icon here. Now we want to make the icon a little bit bigger. Alright, so I'm going to give it a font size of 120, like that. Okay, so we need to have some kind of a space between every list and the other. So I'm just going to give it a padding bottom here. You can have it as margin, it's fine. So I'm just going to have a padding bottom. No, that's the list that I'm talking about here. So yeah, for every list element, it's going to have a padding bottom of 20 pixels. Let's see how this is looking like. I think this is pretty much, that's too much, isn't it? Let's just make it 10 here. I think this is better. Yeah, that is definitely better. Okay. Yeah, now let's give the icons a color. So what was the color of the icon? It was this color. Okay, so let's just go there, give the icon a color of that. Oh, okay. And I think this is it. We need just a small modifying to the space here. Just going to have this beneath. I think the icons are not aligned between the font, but this is going to be solved really quickly. Now this UL, let's see the UL padding. There is a padding to the left here, right? So let's add to the UL. Let's add to it a padding to the left. So where's the UL? The UL is called ink, so I'm just going to say that this is going to have a padding to the left of 1%. Let's see how 1% looks like. No, it doesn't look good. So let's increase it. That is definitely better. Let's stick with 5. Yeah, let's stick with 5. All right. So this is the icons. Now there's one thing left. Now let's go to the icons here. We can give it a position relative, meaning that if you want position to change how it's positioned, you need to say that I'm going to change the position of this icon, whether it's to the top or to the bottom or adding stuff to the left or to the right, relatively to its original position. So relative to where it is like laid out in the HTML document. Now I can like play with the actual position direction. So I'm just going to try to play with the top. So I'm just going to increase it from the top, so it should go down a little bit to be aligned with the text a little bit more. So let's start with 1 pixel here, okay, and let's go further. I think it's 2 is good. 2 or 3, I don't know. I think 2 is good. Yeah, 2 is pretty much, yeah, 2 is good. So let's add these lines. Just going to copy them from there and add them here. And this is it. This is essentially it. But there is a very annoying margin. I don't know if this is a margin or what is this exactly. Yeah, we already gave a padding bottom to each div, all right? But by default the UL has its saying in this, so it has a margin to the bottom, which is making this a little bit big. So I'm just going to take the margin bottom of that UL, right? So margin bottom should be 0, all right? Refresh, and this is something is wrong. It still has the margin, so okay, something is wrong. So what is wrong? Let's see. I'm just going to pause. I think it was because I had an extra curly brace. Maybe this was the issue. Yeah, that was the issue. Now we don't have that margin bottom. All right, so let me just resize this. Now this is looking It's looking pretty good, to be honest, right? We can add some font weight to this guy, since this is the pizza name anyway, right? And let's go there and give that that was name, that was the paragraph. So font weight, it's going to be having 400. Let's see. No, that's not enough. 500, that's still not enough. 600, I think this is good. Okay. Yeah, so I think this is looking good. Now we can increase the font here a little bit of that LIs. Hopefully things are not going to be destroyed. So let's say that font family is going to be 20 pixels. Now that's not a very huge impact. I think we have given already a font size of some sort. It doesn't really apply here. What did we say? That's not font size. I'm sorry. So I'm just save this. Okay. And resize. We just go down here. Okay. So font size. It even made the, because we're taking font size, like the icon is taking 100% and 20 of the actual font size of the thing that is inside, and it happens as to be inside the LI, and the LI font has increased. Yeah, I think this is good. Now there's something with the H3. I don't know if I made this so small. Let's see how 95 looks like. I don't know. I think this is this is going to work. So let's try 5 here. 6, maybe 600 is good. Or let's just have it as it is. It's not going to make any difference. Anyway, let's continue with the button. Alright, so let's start with the button here. Now let's go and let's grab the view more, the div that the button is inside first. So this is the view more that has the button inside of it. Alright, so let's grab that view more. Right. Notice that you need to make some sections in your CSS, saying that, for example, this is division, button division, like this. You need to have sections in your code, in your CSS, even in your CSS style sheets, just for us to know what you are actually working on, of which segment of the documents you are working on. All right. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah. So let's give that. First of all, let's center everything inside that div in the middle, and let's add center. Okay, so it's in the middle now. Now we need to add some paddings to this guy, to this division. Okay, so I'm just going to add a padding of, let's start with 30 pixels from top, 0 from right, from bottom, another, I don't know, 40 pixels. I'm just going to make it 40 in all sides, pixels, and 0 from left. Okay, so we are getting somewhere, right? Now let's grab that. From that division, I'm going to grab the button. Okay, so now I'm going to give it a font family, or a font size, I'm sorry, of 20 pixels. Okay, now we can take away that ugly underline, and now we can do, we can give it a background color. What is the color of the background for the button? Let me just see. Yeah, it was this. So this color right here, let's give it a color of white for the font, and let's give it some paddings. So you can give the font, the button itself, a padding of 10% or 10 pixels from up, and maybe 15 or 15 from bottom. That's the bottom, right? So we first go to the cycle, to the clockwise iteration here, so we don't really care about the left, or we do care about left and right. So let's just make it 20 pixels from there, 20 pixels from there. Let's see how this is looking like. Not exactly what we want it to look like. Okay, so let's try to increase the right and left a little bit. Alright, so we're going to stick to that one. Alright, so let's add a border radius of a very big one here. It's 200 pixels. Okay, so this is looking good so far. Now what is left? Maybe I'm going to go a little bit further here. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's looking better. Alright, now we can add a transition. So I'm just going to transition the background color in 0.5, half a second, or let's just make it something lesser, and the mode is going to be ease in out. Okay, now let's hover over it, and now we can add the new background color when we transition and hover over it. So what was the background color when we hover? Yeah, it was this one. So background color, there's a hash sign. Now let's take a look here. Alright, looking good, right? Now we need some kind of do we need a margin or a padding from downside? I think that's good enough. Well, essentially this division should have had a padding to the bottom. That's weird. Let's take a look here. Alright, so that division, each division should has a padding to the bottom. So there is a padding. We didn't give it a padding. I think we didn't. Yeah, I think we skipped that part. So we included, we included the first two divisions only, without the view more division, since we didn't want the view more to have the border bottom. So we're just going to copy this and take away that padding bottom and take away the border from here. So everyone should have a padding bottom, right? I'm going to include the view more with them like that. So refresh. It is not that big after all too. So I wonder, oh, we have given already some padding here, so that's really unnecessary. So I'm just going to go some steps back here like that. I'm going to increase the padding for that view more. So from bottom, let's just make it 60. Alright, this works. Let's just make it 50. That's going to work. Yeah, I think this is decent. We don't want something that's entirely perfect, but that's decent. Okay, now let's take a look at the hover. How can we make this beautiful hover effect on the card itself, right? So first of all, there's a shadow. If you look at the shadow here, right? So let's see how can we do that. Alright, so first of all, let's grab the box shadow. So the box shadow for the card is essentially like this. Alright, so let's go to the card. Where is our, where is the card? That's the card. So let's give it that box shadow. So it should have a very slight box shadow. I don't know if you're seeing it or not, but there is a box shadow here. Alright, and now when we hover over it, right, we should see another box shadow, right? So I'm just going to paste this here, and yeah, you see. Now let's add some smooth transition. Let's say that we are going to transition the box shadow in, I don't know, let's say 2 seconds, 3 seconds, ease in, out. like that. So yeah, this is looking good. And let's make the popping effect, that it's coming out of its place, and that's simply using something called transform scale. So whenever we hover, we want to see the entire card being upscaled out of its frame with a value of 1. So I'm just going to show you what this means. So I'm just going to say scale it with a value of 1. Now let's try it here first. It's not showing, so let me see why for a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. So scale of 1 means 100%, so we want it to be popping out like upscaling it or popping it out of the frame that is inside of something that is larger than the 100% scale that it has by default. So let's say something like 0.2. Alright, here we go. But that's really big. That's really big. So I'm just going to make it something like that. So let's see how this is looking. Now this is decent. Maybe this is still big. I don't know. So let's just make it something like that. Or 3. That's the final decision here. Alright, now let's make it smooth, and let's have the transform scale by default. It should have 1, right? And we are going to transition it as well. So transition the transform property with a 0.3 second is in out. This should be a comma right there. Is in out. Alright, and here we go. Looking good, looking really good. Alright, and this is the card system in a nutshell. Now we can just copy and paste it. So we have the first column here, right? So this is the first column, right? So you can just do that for any number of columns, but our design has only 3 of them. So I'm just going to have another column like that, and here you go. Okay.